Well, and this is, you know what this is, where the good times happen.
Hey everybody and welcome. It's your friend Godfather here, and today we are battling again at Foundry against an alliance called TLH, The Last Hope. Now on the matchup, we are extremely close. 21 registered on each side, less than 500,000 power difference between those that are registered. It shows that we have a potential big match against us. Now, right away from the start, as you've seen from other videos, we're checking out the competition. We're looking at each one of their players, looking at their total power, kind of gauging based on their skin, how active that they could be and what they could be potentially packing. We got to do the same thing on our side. Once again, when you're looking at registration, that's one thing. But when you're looking at the people that actually show up, it's totally different. So you have to be ready to kind of change your strategies and have spoken about what strategies to use in certain cases. You could have at the very beginning of the match something that looks not so threatening, and then a big whale or two or three can potentially show up towards the later part and completely flip everything around. So I like to make sure that I check with my alliance to see if they know anything about the competition, and then we kind of make sure that we understand what we're going to be going after. So nobody else is showing up. We've got a couple of minutes here to start, and we're going to get going. So right there, I just marked out who is being reinforced. So I know personally, I check all my buffs. I'm going to run counter on this one because I think that somebody's going to show up. Based on these numbers right in front of us, it doesn't sound like everybody is present. We've got 15 online and ready to go. They've got 12. There's still a number of other folks that can show up, and I don't want to be going in there half blind thinking that everything's going to be okay. So right from the gate, we've got a defeat, fully reinforced, right? We've seen that the numbers are pretty darn close. I'm going to skip them for now so I can make sure that we whittle those folks that are reinforcing this prototype station. And I usually go for transit, but prototype for this one was what I was assigned to. So I'm going to take them out right out of the gate. They're healing and using gems, making sure that their fires are out, but they're not moving any. So their troops are going to be gone here at any second. And we check, they've got about 190K left, and we're gonna now go for the bigger prize. More people are showing up. Nyx is coming in to assist. So we've already communicated as we kind of open up that barrage that that's when the other players are going to come in. This way we could see what are we taking, what are we going to be doing with a specific building, and making sure that we're taking as many players as we can down. I left that big player alone for right now. They haven't accumulated any points, so I'm going to go ahead and take out some of the other members out there, right? In order for me to take out that fully garrison, and I bounce with my best smarts to begin with, I'm going to have to rally. In the very beginning of the match, when you're still just getting settled in, rallying at that point would be a potential waste of time, right? I would have to gem or speed up the other players in order to get to me on time. They've got a minute to pour it out, just a complete waste. There is no real need for them to stay because they don't have any skin in the game in that building, and they can go off to do other things, and I've potentially wasted precious resources for what we're going to need in the battle. So here we go. These people are out. I'm going to march against it. It should be a 1-2 knockout, and then just take it from there. I'm not going to stay. Somebody else is going to come in after me and take over that building. I'm not going to move back to this bigger, larger fight and focus in on taking this building. All right, so I'm sending 2 marches, and I'll look at the reports right after. I'm sending my first, number 1 and number 2, and I'm bouncing back. They still have quite a bit, and if you saw that in the flash, he was losing 65K, and I was losing almost double that. They're now staying. Now it's okay for me to go ahead and send in a rally and speed people up to get in here on time. I can almost guarantee, and I don't remember this fight off the top of my head, but I can almost guarantee that this person is not going to move. And they're gone. So the rally came through. They're now gone. They've lost that barrier that was preventing me from burning them, and I'll continue on with the rest of my marches to whittle them down. This is probably their biggest player in their group as it is right now. It's a huge demoralization factor when you take out that big player. And you've seen it on some of the other else's videos. I'm gonna give a shout out to our friends over at 1126 in TMS, and you've probably seen their videos out everywhere. They're phenomenal. You've got a bunch of big players there going a bunch of other big players, and they're very smart with how they move, right? They don't engage in fights unless they have to, and they can almost guarantee a win, right? And we've seen this at countless times when you're seeing two big globes going against each other. They're being reinforced by people like Finance Guy, High Voltage, you've got Moody, you've got Lackey, you've got a bunch of other folks that are in that awesome alliance, and they're burning people down. So very similar when you're dealing at this level, and this is still tier A as we're building up Bug in our new state. They're not going to have that much power, so it's really easy for one or two people to annihilate the entire competition. Since we're focusing on both of our legions, we split up our power as best as possible. I'm in Legion 1, and then Legion 2 has a couple of heavier players in order to help that out. So we've taken this building, right? This is where their major power was at, and we're going to double check where we're going to go from here on out. We're going to make sure that everybody's clear, going to start sending the reinforcements into this building, and then we're going to move on to something else. And I'm making sure that I'm not leaving before my assistance gets here. Why is that? Because they're going to be marching from a distance with their defensive heroes. If I were to move and the enemy was to take it, you're going to have an attacking group, right, defending against a defending group. And here's their big whale. So I actually do know him. So this is Bugs Bunny. Really hefty player, maxed out base. Okay, he's got essentially just about everything that you could possibly want in a base. We've seen him in transfer chat a couple of times. So it starts fleshing out the story with what's going to go on. Knowing who you're up against is almost half the battle. Kind of like, think of the old G.I. Joe, Real American Heroes logo. Knowing is half the battle. So I want to make sure that I'm messaging him so he knows that they're up against us, just in case they don't recognize the name as I spell it. He's got about 1 million troops in there. I can take him, okay? He's got his main march inside of the garrison. That puts him at a huge disadvantage. And I'm attacking with an unorthodox set, right? So that way I can make sure that I am using my most troops to lose up front, minimize my overall healing, and then I will reset my march to the appropriate size. You can see that there's about a 40K difference between them. My 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th march are still not going to work. So this is where I would just focus on my primary 2 marches to go ahead and continue to attack him and whittle him down. I'm going to take some losses through this. It's just inevitable. But I'm making sure that I'm preparing myself with healing so I can withstand the fight. If he's not willing to do the same thing, I'm just going to win from sheer stamina. So the building is ours. Now their number 2 player has been already zeroed. Their number 1 player, probably who is ranking up their power in the matchmaking, is on. He's going to have to rethink his strategy. He was probably going in there thinking that this was going to be a piece of cake and that they were going to waltz all over us because they've got 2 big players. They don't consider the fact that some people are just more tenacious and they are more willing to risk it all to take the win. And in our case, because we're trying to get into that S tier and we want to win, we're going to make sure that that happens. Very key for the joiners, right? When you're out and about and you've got a designated set of attacking people, when they call a rally, you have to respond immediately. You have less than a minute to get in. If you've got the gems in order to support it, speed up on their behalf. It's the nice thing to do, okay? And making sure that that rally gets off within that 1 minute before they have to move. This is a very risky situation for most people that are on the attack because you are forcing your main march to go out of your building, reducing your overall troops by around 200 to 230,000. And that could potentially be the difference between winning and losing a one-on-one fight. If you've got the help by 2 or 3 or 4 other players, you've got 500,000 more up, right? I think that my max ring capacity is roughly 1.5 million or so troops. Maybe it's 1.3, I forget. But it's going to allow me, with my troops at home and my stats, to withstand any solo attack from any whale, okay? If they start rallying against me, we're gonna be looking at timing. You can't speed up a march. So you essentially have 1 minute from the time of the call and roughly around a 10-second march that gives you a minute and 10 seconds in order to make a decision whether you're going to tank it or you're going to move and then reset a strategy. It's also a very good time in order to move away from that hit when their main march is out and they can't speed it up one direction, right? You've got 10 seconds of an opening where their guard is down as they're throwing that punch so you can land in an uppercut. Boxing analogy, but for those of you that fight out there, you guys get it. So once again, their big whale is now moving into a position where they can take a building. And we've got so much pressure on them right now. We're still a little bit shaky, so we're winning and losing a couple of different buildings here and there, and we have to accumulate some points. So I'm once again communicating to my team that if I'm in a building, it is their responsibility to grab that building and garrison from me, right? So I can leave and go do something else. So we are a little bit over twice as many points as they are. You could see from the mini map on the top right there that we have all but 2 buildings at this point. They only have 2 players that are on the run that pose any type of threat, and I'm able to pressure them both by making sure that my team is letting me know where they are. So what do you do when you can't be everywhere at once, right? You've got a big person about to attack a garrison. The first time you get attacked, take the hit. Look at the report, see how big of a difference was it. Was it a bad mix of heroes? Was it your garrison wasn't fully there? Was it just a sheer numbers thing? If they're solo attacking something and you lose, there's usually a reason that you can fix on the fly of the fight. But let's say that you have somebody that is just absolutely massive, or that you are against a team that's extremely coordinated, that is able to call rallies quickly and take buildings within that 1 minute time frame, okay? You need to evacuate that building. Save those troops, right? Save the healing cost, gather those resources, make sure that if there's points in that building, you focus on looting those points, and then move on to a plan B. Move on to another place and wait for your bigger players to be able to come back around and retake that building. The game is all about points. It's not about kills that much. Okay, well, I like kills in Foundry very much, but the game to win is not about how many kills you get, it's about how many points you can gather, right? So if you've got a great team with you, you're able to put pressure, you're making sure that you're looting those buildings when they happen to be taken, you can always go back and make sure that you're putting you're putting those numbers on the board to guarantee the win. Our win right now, we've got 17 people, right? Participation is good. Out of the 21 that we had registered, 4 are absent. Hopefully some of our subs will jump in order to take that, take those spots at some point. They only have 12. So if they had the full 21 people, I honestly think that this would have been a much closer match, despite the number difference. So as you saw previously on that previous screen, their big whale was holding a building. I was able to knock him out in one shot. He was not garrisoned by anybody else. It's a one-on-one situation. He's already lost a massive amount of troops. He could heal at any point, but he wasn't making sure that those things were being refreshed. So it gives us the possibility to, once again, apply the pressure, get him to move away, right? Allow him to attack that building a couple of times and get some of those defensive points, and then move on to the next place. So I don't know what he was doing here, but he attacked with no heroes and didn't really do much. So remember, and I've said this in a couple of other videos, right? This is a video game. People sit behind the screen. Everybody is good. Knowing others is a great thing. Making sure that you can enjoy a game with others is always a lot more fun than just trying to enjoy it yourself. We're obviously beating this other team, but there's no animosity. There's no hate towards them. There's nothing that we're going to rub in their face other than the bragging rights of a win versus a loss. They're going to get a couple of hits that they're going to be happy about. And all in all, it's still, good times for everybody. So their big whale is going in. He's obviously not able to get his team to coordinate as well as we can on ours. I'm seeing what it is that they've got on their attacks in some of the areas. So I'm calling an audible in terms of our regular strategy and our formations, and making sure that our folks know what's expected, right? We're changing our formation on this defensive side because of who we've got in the garrisons. So we're going from a 60-40-0 formation to a 6-3-1 formation. It's going to allow a little bit more of the archer use out there, and it'll make a whole lot more sense when you're dealing with somebody of or lower scale. Okay, so I'm going to be garrisoning this building. It's big points. It's being attacked. I can't be there, but I can send a fast march in order to protect it. So here we got a meteor skin. I was not able to protect it. I'm going to port in if my team is not ready to loot. All those points, those 3,800 points that were there, we get to keep, right? They didn't take it. They took us out of the building, but we kept the points. So I keep on telling people in Foundry when they're trying to beat other big players is that if you can't take a building or you have buildings, right, and you're going to be knocked out, your number one priority, and it can be anybody's priority regardless of size, is to be able to port in there and grab that loot so you can put those points on the board permanently and not have to suffer any of the consequences down the line. So I love going against Bugs. Namesake is phenomenal. We're about halfway through the battle right now. He's a really cool guy, lots of fun, enjoys the game. Obviously a maxed out base here. It's a really great time for me to test out different things. So in a one-on-one situation like this one, I'm going to try different things. I'm going to see what I can do against him and look at the variability. So I tested out a different formation. I'm using my third march. Bad idea, obviously, against him. But we could tell where exactly the difference is. So I'll be back for him in a sec. Center's all covered. Our points are looking good. I'm going to adjust yet again my formation. I'm not changing my heroes. I'm just putting in the right formation troops into the garrison, because we have considerable amount of points and the threat isn't around our people burning, right? We're not seeing a lot of us burning, even though right here is an attack. The threat is all around those buildings being taken. So just watch into what we're doing here. We've got the majority of the map. They're still taking a couple. We're trying to regain that transit station. And they're applying good pressure. So we're seeing some of their folks come back. We're at 17 participants. They're at 13. I've got some folks that are a little bit exposed without any garrison or rain. I've got a few folks here that are soloing, so not the best coordination in terms of who's holding the buildings or whatnot. And Bugs Bunny here is taking advantage of that. So good on him in figuring that out. I try to speed up a march from across town in order to get into that building, and I couldn't make it in time. So we lost the building, and I ended up colliding with his main march with a defensive march, and it didn't pan out for me. So I'm gonna have to leave those buildings regardless of the garrison that we have there and go back on the offensive to avoid them from getting more points than what they're getting. So take an opportunity to take out some of their members, right? If they port away, if they leave, they're going to take whatever they have in that building as a garrison with them. So preventing them from having the troops to do things allows us to do better. So he left, and that building now is 100% available for anyone to take without even having to fight for it. So if you're standing still and you don't have a teleport, you have to ask for a reinforcement. Take 2 or 3 people with you and reinforce each other. It may not sound like it makes a lot of sense because it's almost the same amount of troops that you're exchanging. But what you're doing is that you're bonusing the stats to your defense. So if you're sending a Patrick, you're gonna get bonus stats to health, as an example, that you would not have had otherwise. So sharing with each other only takes 1 march, but it gives you a greater possibility to bolster the stats that you need in order to save yourself. All right, so going up against Bugs Bunny again, super strong guy. He's essentially taken me for 2 times the amount of troops, but he's not resending any reinforcements. So I'm going to go ahead and whittle him down until he's about to leave. So he's at 400, 300, and boom, the game's over. It only took a couple of swings of the axe to chop down that tree. The points become ours, and all it is a little bit of healing in order to get that done. So I've been asked this before, where do you get all the healings? Well, obviously, I save some of the Frost Stars in order to buy healing packs for Foundry. But you can also get them on a daily from the Alliance shop. So whenever they become available, you're taking free money currency or free currency from the game to buy something that you're gonna benefit from. The team's doing very well. We are kind of shifting buildings. Once again, I know that this is a perspective from one base. I wish that there was a spectator mode in Foundry so we can bounce around to where all the things are happening and be able to look behind the curtains with certain people, right, as to what's happening. Even if it was like post Foundry, just as a recording that you can spectate would be amazing. If there's any developers out there that are listening, if you guys can implement that, I think that it would be a lot of fun to take things like Canyon Clash and Foundry and potentially SVS and be able to replay some portion of that, if not all of that, for a limited time, or give us the ability to download that video so we can look at it, analyze it later. Think about it like a post-game video would be awesome. All right, so once again, taking more bases, testing out this other guy. He's fully healed up. He doesn't have much in there, and I'm going to go loot. But notice that he didn't even flinch. He just lost the building and didn't even move a muscle to go loot anything. And here's the race to get it, and we got it. So, somebody had to pour it in. But if this person had just sent out his marches to loot the ammunition that falls out of that building, I wouldn't have taken it all. I would have taken maybe, a portion of that, at least half, if not, maybe even a little bit less, depending on which stash he goes after or is closest to. And that's going to be a little bit random. But they didn't even move. So that's free points for us. So 235K, 234K right now, but numbers going up really fast. To their 60, they've essentially amassed like less than 23,000 points in the entire time. It's been 40 minutes of this Foundry, and predominantly the map has been blue. And whenever it's turned to red, they've lost the loot. They never even bothered for it. So we are in a position that we are just miles ahead of them, that if we turn defensively, we're gonna be able to hold the points, right? The center right now is at 17,000. That's essentially game-changing points right there. If they were smart, they would be moving to take that center with Bugs Bunny, right? But they are not that well coordinated. So making sure that they stay away from it and we keep that protected, since I know that we have the ability to lose buildings, I'm gonna make sure that that's protected for the last 20 minutes of the fight, okay? Think about it as just, going defensively and playing out, making sure that you're removing the options, because this is what they've got to be thinking right now. Bugs Bunny keeps on attacking a reinforced base, right? Willow, FC5 from the looks of it, is able to hold off a whale, and it's just by simple reinforcements. Her stats are definitely not better than his. Mine are comparable, but together, it's a very different story. So I know that I don't comment a lot about it, but if I'm constantly looking at the bottom messages to see what's being called out, whether it's a repair facility, it's a location of the whale, or a whale that's coming into attack, any call outs with my name being tagged on it. I tend not to open up that chat window all the way because it's hugely distracting. So you've got to make sure that you understand and you see the messaging as it's coming in. Think about it like a stock ticker tape. The change is happening rapidly, and you want to make sure that you are in tune with how the flow of battle. You only get to see this one little rectangle of your phone as you're playing this, and there's a huge other map that things are happening to. So making sure that, that's funny. This is why it's always good to know people, right? So once you do, it's a game. So here I had an individual offer and say, don't hit me. I'm coming online to give one of your members free points. Well, so, more power to them. Very, very kind. I tell you, man, some things that happen here are wild. So on average, I'm gonna heal roughly around 2 to 3 million troops. Having a good hospital capacity and all that stuff, the speed of healing, the cost of healing, those all play into it. But I keep my troops low. I'm under 1 billion for other reasons. So I want to make sure that I can keep them in the fight as long as possible, and then make sure that I have enough healing serums in order to make that happen. So we're going to go back and look at that report once more, right? So they're attacking individuals. Again, they're trying to deploy the same strategy, but we've got them fully reinforced. And this person has no chance of taking this building. It's got 22,000 points with a full garrison, and it's not going to happen. Now, he didn't take a building. Definitely thought that it was. Lines are a little bit deceiving, but everybody that's standing around it is garrisoned, right? They're fully reinforced. They have a much higher chance of rejecting an attack. And because they are out of time in order to really make a difference, they're going to be doing solo attacks instead of trying to coordinate rallies in order to make an impact on any one of these things. So what do you do when you've got it full lockdown? There's 13 minutes left. We've got 300,000 to their 75,000 points in total. What do we do next? Well, you're just gonna hang out. Make sure that everything's tied up. They're going to fight whichever way that they can. And as long as you're holding all the buildings and you're paying attention to what's going on, you're good to go. Now, if you saw that just briefly pop up, we've got one person with one single troop in one of these buildings. Not ideal. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that that's taken care of. Reporting ahead, we've got 11 minutes left on this fight. They are fully locked down, 6 million points. That's not too bad. If you haven't seen my other video where I scored 14 plus million points in a foundry, it's deploying the same strategy, okay? It is a couple of variations to what we do that works. Now, we've got a bunch of other strategies to deploy as we get against stronger ourselves and we get against stronger alliances, potentially with multiple whales. One of the reasons that our Legion 2 just beat 3RB was by deploying these strategies, right? Being able to go through a very pragmatic approach to how to win this game, as opposed to just going out, running and gunning, and running around like a chicken with their heads cut off, I think is the saying. But instead of doing that, we've got a planned, methodical approach in terms of how to take, how to make sure that we're putting points up on the board, how to keep our players in the game as best as possible, what everybody's role needs to be doing. And they deployed a very different strategy than what you've seen in our videos. And I wish that we would have recorded that one, because our win against 3RB was a little bit more personal, and it was our second tier team. So their Legion 1 lost against our Legion 2. And I'll post up some screenshots at the end of this because it's just too good to pass up. So we're at the 6-minute mark in the game right now. We're going to speed this up 5x just for brevity. We are more than 3 times the number of points than they have. Once again, there are down to 12 people. We still have the full squad that we came in with. Nobody's really left to recharge troops. Everybody is now attacking cities and gaining the final bits of points. If we lose a building with less than 2,000 points or whatnot, no big deal. Game's over. I'm not going to be porting around or speeding up too much from here on out. Maybe a couple of hits here and there. It's got to be time to save gems. I spent roughly almost 600,000 gems, 500,000 to 600,000 gems here between ports, speed ups, etc. Healed roughly around 3 million troops in this one. Once again, it's all around attacking and defending, using those troops for what they're good for, healing them up to keep them back in the fight. And if you don't have that ability, you didn't save up to get the healing serums, then leave the foundry, go back to your regular base city for 12 minutes, and they will all be replenished so you can get right back into the fight. But there's the win, 383 to 99,000, 6.2 million points, and I'll leave you with some 3RB win goodness from our Legion 2. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you very much. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you got any questions, post them down in the comments. I try to read through those on a daily basis and answer whatever questions you guys may have. Once again, I appreciate you. Catch you in the next one.